subtract my age from the mileage on my buy this car to drive to work to pay for this car. Buy this car to drive to work.
Welcome to the Yellow Brick Road. I'm Jordan, and today I'm talking about one of my favorites, David Pakman, and the Seth Rich, the recent Seth Rich news or whatever, Russia, whatever they call it. But first, please consider donating to Devon's Journey to Recovery. The GoFundMe link is down there in the description box. Please donate. All proceeds go to charity because we don't make any money off of this. It's not for us. We didn't set it up. We didn't start the GoFundMe. But it is for someone else to help pay for their medical bills. So please donate. Devon's Journey to Recovery. The GoFundMe link is down there. All right. Now, this is one of my favorite guys to talk about because, in my opinion, he's one of the worst political analysts on YouTube. And it's not because of his logical verbiage and his intellectual conclusions and things like that. It's that he's a guy who calls himself progressive, but doesn't seem to lead with his conscience. That seems like the word progressive, that's what that means, right? Progressing forward, making things better. What's the scale of better mean? Morality. Oh, you're trying to morally make things better for everyone. So, he's one of the worst to me. Just as bad. Oh, he's not as bad as Steven Crowder, who's just a shill, liar, neocon type. But he seems to just forget his conscience when he does political analysis. Might even be a little psychopathy, a little bit there, a little coldness there. But all right, this is David Pakman talking about the Yahoo Seth Rich article that came out a couple days ago. Here we go.
I want to start today with a very well done Yahoo News investigation, which reveals that the entire Seth Rich conspiracy theory from a couple of 3 years ago at this point was planted and fomented by Russian intelligence. And this is a pretty stunning and particularly disturbing revelation because
you have to believe it wholesale to say that. That's why.
How successful this conspiracy theory was. I mean, remember, this conspiracy theory penetrated not only the right, but even some enclaves of left-wing media, the wackier elements, admittedly, but it did get into the left as well. And the idea of...
I think he means Jimmy Dore, those type of guys. I think that's who he means. Even though I don't think Jimmy went that far, really.
This conspiracy theory, and again, as I often say with these things, if this is news to you, if you didn't even hear about the fact that this was actually getting some traction, I envy you. I wish I had never heard about the fact that this was going on, but the theory was that Seth Rich, a DNC staffer, was not actually killed in a robbery gone wrong, but rather by associates of Hillary Clinton because he simply knew too much, possibly about Hillary's emails or hacking of the DNC emails, which wasn't really actually what it was claimed to be, or because of Hillary's corruption that he knew about, and that he was killed in July of 2016 in order to ensure his silence, and that what he knew would never go public, including through Wikileaks, with whom he was allegedly, according to some flavors of the conspiracy, in touch.
Okay. Well, the last thing he says... I guess, what did he say? Crazy conspiracy elements of the left, award-winning Seymour Hersh.
June, summer's in June 21st. Late spring would be after, I presume, I don't know. I just say it says late spring, early summer. He makes contact with Wikileaks. That's in his computer, and he makes contact. Now, I have to be careful because I met Julian 10, 12 years. I stay the fuck away from people like that. And he said, invited me, and when I'm in London, I always get a message, come see me as the Ecuadorian ambassador, and there's no fucking way I'm going there. I've got enough trouble without getting photographed by every fucking day. He's under total surveillance by everybody. But anyway, they found what he had done. He had submitted a series of documents, of emails, some juicy emails from the DNC. And, by the way, all this shit about the DNC, whether hacked or wasn't hacked, but whatever happened, the Democrats themselves wrote this shit. You know what I mean? All I know is that he offered a sample, an extensive sample, I'm sure dozens of emails.
Just to be clear, not all people are either, like most people that are questioning the story, in my opinion, they're not saying either it's, Hillary Clinton involved, Hillary Clinton's hitmen came and shot him, or they're not saying, the U.S. government, because of WikiLeaks, went and shot him. I think most people just have questions.
Seth Rich was a Bernie Sanders supporter. Seth Rich was a patriot. Seth Rich, according to Julian Assange and WikiLeaks, which have not been proven to be liars.
Never had to retract anything they printed.
They've never had to do that. He's saying that he leaked stuff to him. There are consequences leaking stuff to WikiLeaks. Seth Rich was murdered at 4 o'clock in the morning, shot in the back. They said it was a botched robbery, but no one took anything from him, and there's never been anyone that's charged with it, and there's no suspects. I don't know what happened to him, but that looks very suspicious.
Well, you're not even allowed to ask questions.
Right? This guy was apparently supposed to be a botched robbery, right? That's how they named it. And nothing was stolen, apparently. All his valuables were still on him. So how can you just call it a robbery or a botched robbery? That makes absolutely no sense. It'd be more likely to call it just a murder or a homicide. And if it's 2 shots to the back of the head and nothing taken from the guy, doesn't sound like a botched robbery to me. So, and that sounds like something worthwhile and, investigating. But I think David has a problem with even doing that. It's clean cut. Police told me so. Shut up. Go back to sleep, America, as Bill Hicks would say. Let's continue.
Right after the incident in which Rich was killed in July of 2016, the SVR, which is Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service, started fomenting the idea that this was not, as reported, not a robbery gone wrong, but instead it was because Seth Rich was just so close to telling the FBI or WikiLeaks or whoever about all of the corrupt dealings of Hillary Clinton. So he was...
Yeah, like I said, most people are like, well, we still don't have answers for this thing. It seems worthwhile in investigating it. You have a police force calling it a botched robbery, nothing taken, and you have a guy dead. What happened there? See, the thing is, these Russia guys, they seem to point out stories of Russia causing chaos with stories that people are already looking into or already care about. Like, people already dislike Hillary Clinton. People already thought she was evil or corrupt. So a meme about Jesus and the devil, like, oh, that suits in with what these guys already believe. So it's like, what are we talking about here? What are we really talking? See, he thinks you guys are fucking stupid. Or he thinks most of America is fucking stupid, to where a meme will just, oh, fuck it. I'm voting Trump this time because of this fucking meme. And he'll say it. He'll say it later on. I think he really believes that Trump won with some sort of Russia connection, Russian interference.
Killed. The truth, of course, is that Rich was killed when walking home from a bar in Washington, D.C. He was on the phone with his girlfriend at the time, and he was shot twice in the back of the head. And an element of the story that is sometimes included is that there were these connections with Julian Assange's WikiLeaks.
Now, you see how he brushed over that? Right? Seth Rich walking home on the phone with his girlfriend, gets shot in the back of the head twice, and called it, and he stated the official statement, which is a botched robbery. He said those two things simultaneously within this one, or he said these two things within the same fucking video. That it was a botched robbery, and that he was just shot in the back of the head twice with none of his valuables missing. He will not bring that up because I can't honestly tell you what I think is going on with this guy, but something's fucking off, right? When you fall on the same side of, you know, all these stories over and over again, and there's evidence on the contrary, and he doesn't even address it. Very weird. Very, very, very weird.
And then after the SVR initially participated in creating this conspiracy, the Internet Research Agency, which is this Russian troll factory, which we've talked about before, which engages in social media disinformation campaigns, started...
New knowledge. Right, Tulsi's a Putin puppet. Or she's being propped up by the Russian government. That's why people don't believe it, David. Jesus.
Aggressively circulating the conspiracy and getting it more auction. And of course, we know that it was eventually spread by allies of Donald Trump, including Roger Stone. Steve Bannon said it was a, quote, contract kill, obviously, end quote. Trump attorney Jay Sekulow said it, quote, sure doesn't look like a robbery. Sean Hannity.
Yeah, I would say that exact same thing. It sure doesn't look like a fucking robbery. Fuck. What's that guy's name? Weber? Gary Webb. Gary Webb, right? Shot twice in the head. Called it a suicide. Like, sometimes, I don't know. Some shit just looks off, if you ask me. Botched robbery with nothing taken. Shot in the back of the head twice. I don't even know if that's the actual official story or not. I don't know if David got that wrong or something, but he said it. If he believes it's 2 shots to the back of the head with no valuables taken, and you tell me what it fucking looks like. You can call it a homicide. Like, oh, this guy was killed. We couldn't find the people who did it. But you can't call it a fucking botched robbery with none of his shit missing. That makes no fucking sense at all. Where's your analysis there? Where's your analytical mind working there? What the freak, man? Anyways.
Hannity ended up running with it. We saw Alex Jones talk about it, I believe. I'm going from memory now. And then...
Now he's guilting people by association, basically. So if Alex Jones says, oh, this is weird, nothing stolen, killed, called it a botched robbery. If you say those same words, you're in the same lane as Alex Jones now.
Even some elements of the left were spreading this conspiracy theory. Shockingly, I'm not even going to name them. You can research them.
He means Jimmy Dore. Be real about it. He's afraid to say that name because he knows what happens to his numbers when he does.
Well, you're not even allowed to ask questions because I covered that story one day. I covered it one day because that guy Wheeler came out and he was saying he had all this, he saw the computer and all this stuff. So I covered that.
Right, and you're a piece of shit.
And
you're a conspiracy theorist.
In that video I did, I literally said, I don't know if this is true. We're waiting for evidence. Unlike the mainstream news media with their Russia bullshit, we're going to wait for evidence.
Right.
I literally said that inside that. And then the next day I did another video which debunked that guy Wheeler who was pushing that story because he turned out he was full of shit.
So what was the response, though?
People still to this day fucking smear me with that. They go, oh, you pushed it. I go, I would do a news show. I covered a news show. By the way, why aren't you allowed to ask questions about an open murder investigation?
Well, not only...
That's interesting to you. Now, I don't even know that I need to point out some of the problems with the conspiracy theory. There are many, but I'll include just a few. One being the big picture that Seth Rich was merely a data analyst. He didn't have access to nor the technical know-how to hack and access what he would have needed to access. His parents have corroborated that he didn't have the knowledge. There's no evidence that's been found that Seth Rich had any information, that he was in contact with anybody at WikiLeaks to whom he would have sent that information. But it doesn't...
Now, I don't know if that's the case or not. I don't know Seth Rich's expertise or the levels he was working at. But as far as I understand, it was the DNC emails, right? And Bill Benny says it was most likely like a flash disk or flash drive or something to where it was locally just downloaded, right? Some flash drive into the computer, downloaded it there, saved it, took it out, and left. I don't know how much of an expert you have to be to do that. I don't know.
About the kid, and I'll tell you what I know. What I know comes off an FBI report. Don't ask me how you can figure out. I've been around long enough. The kid gets. I don't think he was murdered. I don't think he was murdered because of what he knew. The kid's a nice boy, 27. He was not an IT expert, but he learned stuff. He was a data programmer, but he learned stuff. What happened? The Democrats themselves wrote this shit. You know what I mean? All I know is that he offered a sample, an extensive sample. You know, I'm sure dozens of emails, and said, "I want money." That later, WikiLeaks did get the password. He had a Dropbox, a protected Dropbox, which isn't hard to do. I mean, you don't have to be a wizard, IT wizard. You know, he was certainly, you know, he's not a dumb kid. They got access to the Dropbox. He also, and this is also in the FBI report, he also let people know with whom he was dealing. And I don't know how he dealt. I'll tell you about WikiLeaks in a second. I don't know how he dealt with the WikiLeaks and the mechanism. But he also, the word was passed, according to the FBI report. I also shared this box with a couple of friends. So if anything happens to me, it's not going to solve your problem. Okay? I don't know what that means. I don't know whether he was, anyway. But WikiLeaks got access, and before he was killed.
Matter, because the propagators of this will continue to believe it and try to propagate it, and they are already even saying that the Yahoo News report pointing to Russian intelligence as fomenting this conspiracy is part of the planted fake backstory meant to take attention away from the fact that this was a contract kill or a murder meant to silence Seth Rich. Now,
it's most likely a guy who's been deeply just paying attention to the whole Russia thing, has made part of his career off the Russia thing, and when he sees a problem happening, and he hears certain voices saying, having problems with the story, he will point to Russia immediately.
I'm Michael Isikoff. Welcome to Yahoo News' Conspiracy Land, the untold story of Seth Rich, a special 6-part podcast brought to you by Skullduggery. I've been an investigative journalist in Washington for several decades now, and I was heavily involved in reporting on the role that Russia played interfering in the 2016 presidential election, the leaking of DNC emails to WikiLeaks, the creation of fake Twitter accounts, and the manipulation of social media, the attempts to recruit or co-opt members of the Trump campaign. But as I did so, I kept hearing in the background, much of it coming from Trump allies, how Seth Rich's death, and not Russian meddling, was the real story of what happened during the election.
in fact, for Seth Rich's family, this has been terrible, okay? Seth Rich's parents have repeatedly asked that people just stop, that the conspiracies are like, quote, losing him all over again, they've said. So the...
Now, a normal person, I'd be like, all right, I get that. I understand that. But when I hear Pakman say it, it sounds like a way to get people to stop looking into things like that. Like, you're hurting the family when you investigate this. Just let it be a botched robbery and move on with your life. It's like,
Real story for me here is that there's a huge overlap between those who fell for the Seth Rich conspiracy theory and those who believe that Russia did nothing to attack our election systems or to help Donald Trump.
See, he held up two straw men simultaneously. He's a wizard. Like, people who are like, hey, this mainstream narrative of Russia hacking our election and sowing discord or whatever, like that's fucking bullshit. I'm not saying that the Russian government doesn't do any type of espionage. Of course they believe that. Most of the people I've heard, which I think is, which I believe represent most people's stances towards this, they think that, oh, well, the stories they're making up in the mainstream as excuses for Hillary Clinton's loss, like, I don't think Russia had anything to do with that. Oh, WikiLeaks has a 100% record, basically. I think it just straight up is 100% record as far as being correct on certain incidents. And yet they're being called Russian. Like, that doesn't make sense either. And they also said that WikiLeaks has also said that it wasn't Russia or a government affiliate that gave them the fucking information. So you have that. That's one straw man. The other one is the Seth Rich shit, which I've said over and over again already. So just something about this dude's just fucking dishonest. I'm just saying, as a real person, something dishonest about him.
Lots of Seth Rich conspiracists also see the
glee in
Russia
my
story
voice
as a completely fabricated one.
My
Seth
thumbnail's
Rich
me laughing.
conspiracists are often also Russia deniers, and it turns out that it's the same Russian forces that claim that they like to say did nothing at all with regard to the election, that were actually the ones pushing this Seth Rich conspiracy theory in front of more and more people. Now,
once again, I'm sorry, OCD. The Russians did nothing. I don't think people are saying. People are saying that the Russians didn't do what you assholes are saying over and over again. The hacking the election, the sowing discord in America, or whatever the fuck. They're saying that's the thing that's bullshit. Not that Russia does nothing and they're innocent, completely innocent. They never do anything. They're the best government ever. We love Russia. I don't think they're saying that at all. So.
Now, if you're wondering why is it in Russia's interest to push such a conspiracy theory, it's the same reason that it's in their interest to do everything that they've done. It's consistent.
Have no impact on the election, as Robert Mueller said. Oh, they attempted to. Gotcha. With Facebook ads? Gotcha.
With Russia's desire to foment chaos and destabilize basic democratic systems, and spreading the notion that one of the presidential candidates might have had someone killed before they could blow the whistle on them. If
that's not why she lost, I'll put it that way. I mean, what really got her to lose was that people could believe it. if they found out that Hillary Clinton really did have Seth Rich killed, people would be like, I'm not shocked by that. I'm angry about it, but I'm not shocked. That makes complete sense. And that's a problem for a candidate, right? Someone believes you could be, a murderer.
That is believed, it contributes to this chaotic perception, or this perception that American democracy is in absolute and total chaos. And of course, in a sense it is. 60 million people voted for Donald Trump, and that is extraordinarily chaotic, but not...
As opposed to voting for Clinton, the Trump voters made more sense to me than Clinton voters during that fucking thing. I can understand some of the Hillary Clinton voters where it's just no, or where they're saying no to Donald Trump, but the ones actively voting for Clinton, that's out there. And Trump made more sense to me than Clinton. As far as here's an on paper corrupt, we had the fucking emails where they're actually cheating and all the foreign policy shit and the Wall Street speeches and on it goes with Hillary Clinton. It's like she's so obviously corrupt. And Trump we didn't have as much on. At least in the mainstream. And you had a grab him by the pussy thing. So this guy, I think he's faking, but the character he's playing is wholesale ignorant of what was going on at that period in time. What was happening in 2016. A YouTuber ignorant of what's going on YouTube. Oh, they're just crazy. Don't pay attention to them. That's probably what he did.
Not in the way that these conspiracies seek to make people believe. It is truly sick to use a family's tragedy to try to advance a political agenda with a...
There you go again, the heart. I'm done with this guy. The heartstring thing.
Yesterday, we told you about Syrian President Bashar al-Assad gassing the Syrian town of Khan Sheikhoun Tuesday morning using what appears to have been sarin gas. The minimum death toll is now over 70. It might ultimately be higher than 100, including at least a dozen children. Over 300 civilians were injured. Diplomats at the United Nations are blasting Russia for defending Assad on this. We have a number of eyewitness accounts about this. There's a 13-year-old boy named Mazin Youssef a victim of the attack, who said at 6:30 in the morning the plane struck. I ran up on our roof and saw that the strike was in front of my grandfather's house. I got dizzy and then fainted in front of my grandfather's garage. I next found myself here in the hospital. The boy's grandmother, Aisha Al-Tilawi, said she saw blue and yellow smoke coming from where the plane dropped the bomb, saying, quote, "We started choking, felt dizzy, then fainted. My grandson Mazin was trying to wake up his grandfather. 3 of my family died." And Donald Trump has said that this has changed his view on Syria and Assad, saying yesterday during a half-hour press conference that this has changed his perspective on Assad and Syria, although maybe not surprisingly, he did not have any comment about Russia's lies about the chemical bombs, nor did he mention Russia at all. Russia is a big, big player here. And as we know, Donald Trump, always reluctant to say anything negative about Russia, not surprising.
Lawmakers questioning whether chemical weapons were even used by the Assad regime in Syria last week. Former Ohio Congressman Dennis Kucinich met with Assad earlier this year, has met with him multiple times, and he says he is skeptical as well. Congressman, thank you very much for joining us this morning. So you're skeptical. You acknowledge that chemicals were used in Syria, but you're skeptical that Bashar al-Assad was the one who unleashed them?
Well, I agree with Representative Gabbard that we should have had an investigation here and then made a determination as to who was responsible. By assuming that Assad was responsible, we're ignoring evidence that was presented in a chemical attack against Ghouta in 2013, where a UN weapons inspector, an MIT scientist, and a scientist from Tesla Labs all concluded that that particular attack was launched from within rebel territory. So you've got to be careful about drawing conclusions.
So, are you alleging then that the information that was released by the Trump administration, the flight patterns of the Syrian jets and others from that base, that's not true? That they didn't have any evidence?
Well, keep this in mind. The flight patterns could have been correct, except suppose the gas was released on the ground after the attack. See, these are the kinds of things that an investigation would show. But
have rebels been shown to use gas in Syria?
Yes.
If you investigate it, you're harming the family. Don't do it. Yeah, a little cold, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. That's my Tim Pool impression. So yeah, I don't know. Something off with this fucking guy. I'm just a real person. I'm not some political genius or anything like that. I'm just a normal dude. And I just it smells like something's off with this fucking guy. I haven't quite nailed it yet. Shapiro, I think I got him down. Crowder, I think I got him down too. This guy, something off. But anyway, I'm done. Please subscribe if you like. Comment, agree, disagree, send me information. Send me videos you want me to react to. We take requests. Donate. Devon's Journey to Recovery. GoFundMe link is down there in the description box. And with all that said, give this video a thumbs down.
Say you wanna get in.